A warm welcome to episode 44 of Lost for Words, a podcast sharing the opinions, glories, and interesting stories of guests. I am your host Jason, and this week I am joined by Richie Worrall, who was a cast member of the recently aired season 2 of ITV's dating show The Cabins. Now in his mid-20s, Richie has struggled with gender identity issues in the past. He talks to me about this, how he lived for many years as a woman, and began a gender transition process before changing his mind. He also tells me about the abuse he received from gay men and how such abuse is often more hurtful when it comes from within your own community. A troubled adolescence has given way to a happier adulthood, and Richie talks about his experience applying for and filming The Cabins against the backdrop of coronavirus measures. We cover a lot of ground here, but it is a really good chat, so I hope you enjoy. A quick housekeeping note before we get started. Please leave a rating or a review wherever you get your podcasts, whether that be Apple, Google, Spotify, Podbean, or any other platform. It's the best way the podcast can grow and better content can be produced for you, the listener. It's your listening experience that matters the most. But enough from me, now on to today's episode of Lost for Words. You were born a boy. See, in terms of that terminology, would it be correct to say that you were born a boy or that you were assigned as a male at birth?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I think it depends how you view gender, really. I mean, I was definitely obviously assigned male at birth. I think from there, the journey that you go on in your coming up life on gender and how you feel about yourself and the words that you use and the terminology that you believe in, I think that would influence whether you feel like because you were assigned something physiologically at birth, that would, like, whether you necessarily feel like that label of a boy. So I think it's fair to say I was assigned male at birth, but I think whatever anybody's assigned at birth, I feel like you can definitely feel differently about yourself. As we see from the trans community, they like people that fully transition and they feel like their body doesn't match with how they feel inside. So but for my personal thing, I mean, and the journey that I've been on, I am personally comfortable, and that's not me speaking for everybody and saying that this is right and this is just how I feel, but I'm comfortable with saying that I was assigned male at birth, and I would say that I am a man, and I've only just really been comfortable with the term man for myself. I think a lot of pressure I felt comes with that term, pressure to be a certain way, pressure to be strong, brave, not show your emotions, all them cliche outdated things. So it's been like a recent thing for me that I've been comfortable with calling myself a man. I'm definitely not a man that is a traditional type of man, and I have got certain feelings about my gender. But yeah, for me, I'm comfortable with saying that I was assigned male at birth, and I do feel pretty male most of the time.
In terms of gender identity struggle, obviously most people don't go through that and don't know what it means. So for you, what was that and what did it mean in practical terms? Which aspects of being a boy did you feel were not for you? Like, which aspects did you struggle with?
Yeah, I think when I was growing up, and I still struggle now a little bit with black and white thinking, and that's not it's not something that I like. It's totally against my character. Like, I'm so open-minded, and I try and view the world in all different colors, and have an open mind to everyone, but something in my brain just kind of makes me think very black and white sometimes, and I've had to kind of train myself out of that. So I used to feel like, if I was a boy, I couldn't wear makeup and I couldn't cry, and I couldn't, at camp, or I couldn't be gay even. Like, I think I really struggled with, especially my sexuality growing up, and I think that influenced in a massive way the journey that I ended up going on with my gender. I remember I used to get called like a girl all the time when I was younger. Like, that's the biggest memory of my childhood, is just everyone calling me a girl all the time, because I was so feminine and sensitive. And I used to dress up as Lara Croft in my mum's shorts and climb the trees and stuff. So I think that effect of just constantly having drilled into me that I'm a girl, it kind of snowballed into my adulthood, and I hated those parts of myself. And I've only just kind of stopped hating them parts of myself in the last couple of years. And I think that's kind of what made me feel like, well, I hate myself and I hate these parts of myself. And especially in dating, like, I got a lot of femme shaming in the gay community, which is where gay guys will shame another gay guy for being feminine, and they only want masculine guys, which is kind of crazy, because like, we're all gay, we all like the same things. So I think to shame another type of person in the same community is just a bit crazy. So I definitely struggled with feeling like I would never be loved by my community in terms of romance and even friendship, to be honest. I just thought everybody was against me. So I just thought to myself, do you know what? I'm going to become a woman, and I'm going to transition. I'm going to become this really attractive, hot, sexy woman. And all those straight guys at school that used to tease me, and all the gay guys that, never wanted me before, they're all going to then commend me, and they're all going to, clap for me and be in awe of me.
I've heard that before. Like, I am a heterosexual male, so I don't have a horse in this race, so to speak. But I have heard from people within the LGBT plus community that see that the sort of bile that some of that community give to one another can be as intense and as hurtful as the transphobic element of it. It's bad enough that they get abuse from the transphobic sort of heterosexual community without then turning on each other.
When it's from within your own community, it's definitely more hurtful, in fact, than the straight community, because as a gay person, if you get abuse, whether it be homophobic, transphobic, whatever phobic, you kind of can brush it off from straight people, and to be honest, just think, well, it's always been like that, so I'm not going to get too emotional over it. But when it's your own community that are supposed to be your friends, and you're all this minority together, when kind of judgment starts to happen from within that community to you by people that are supposed to care for you and be your friends and look out for you and have you back, it definitely hurts more, 100%.
How old were you when you decided to begin to transition towards becoming a female?
I definitely thought about it for a couple of years before, whilst I was kind of really struggling with myself. So I would probably say from about 18. And then when I was like late 19, early 20, that's when I started the hormone therapy and changed my name, and started actually living full time as a woman. All happened very quickly, to be honest.
What effect or impact did your family and close friends have? Did you involve them in that process? Because I've heard that some people can be very internalized and keep these things to themselves almost out of fear or being ashamed.
Yeah, I mean, I've always had a good support system. Like,
Good, good,
even
good.
when I came out as gay, anything that I do, whether it be change my job, or my friends and family are literally amazing. So I couldn't be any more like grateful for them. Um, it was a very inward struggle that I was going through. So I think when you're going through that struggle, you kind of, because some bits of it, or most of it, I didn't understand myself anyway, you kind of try and figure all them bits out within yourself, and you just kind of withdraw a bit and go a bit inward, because you think, well, I can't talk to anybody else about it because I don't really know what's going on either. So I just need to be internal at the moment and just kind of figure it out. So I think a lot of my family thought that I was very, very distant. And looking back, I know that I was, because I was just going through so many thoughts every day and, different experiences every day. And I kind of, because I felt a little bit guilty in some way towards my parents, and they would never want me to feel this, but I felt guilty for kind of taking their son away for a while. I almost felt like I didn't want to talk to them about it or face them about it, because seeing the look on their face, or even though they were supportive, seeing the hurt on their face, and their sort of struggle to understand but still trying to be there with me, really kind of hurt my heart a lot. And it was quite painful for me. So I think all the people closest to me, I really did kind of shy away from, because I was just so in my head all the time with all these thoughts, and I didn't literally have any clue who I was, what was going off. So yeah, I definitely withdrew from friends and family, but the whole time I had their support.
Why didn't you go through gender therapy? Because I was reading about that, and you bought all the hormones online, didn't you?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I mean, I would never obviously recommend that ever. That's probably one of my biggest regrets. Um, I did have, so in the papers and that I said I had no therapy, but I did have one session of therapy, and that was literally, it was a 10-minute conversation while I was in Mackie's drive-through, to a gender therapist before they issued me the hormones.
Right.
So I didn't necessarily go on eBay and type in like, grow me boobs pills. Like, it didn't really happen like that. It was a gender doctor, and they had a team of therapists, but I literally had one session of 10 minutes of therapy. And if I'm honest, that person that gave me the therapy, they said they were new to the community and new to their transition as well. So I don't think the pre-care that I received was good enough. I'm not saying that, everybody that doesn't receive therapy will go on to regret it, because that's not the case. There's thousands and thousands, millions of trans folk that need hormones to live and to function, and to be happy. And if they need to get them in 10 minutes, that's fine. But for me, I was so back and forth with who I was and what I was. I really needed that time. But I'm a very impulsive person. So once I've made a decision, and I'm still like it to this day, once I've made a decision on something, I will do it. And once I've got it in my head, there's no kind of stopping me. So, I changed my name, got the hormones, had the 10 minutes of therapy, started the hormone patch, started growing my hair. I was a hairdresser at the time, so I told all my clients, all within the space of literally like 2 or 3 weeks. It was just like really quick. And I think it's because I was so confused with who I was. I was desperate for this answer, and I thought that this was going to be the be all and end all, and it was going to, make me happy. And so I was in such a rush to do it. So I would just never recommend to rush it. That's my main message in the whole thing, really.
How far along, or how long had you been doing it before you realised, yeah, I've maybe made the wrong choice here?
So I was living as a woman, and presenting as a woman, whatever that may be these days, as for about 6 months before I sorted out the hormones. And then I was on the hormones for about 5 months. And that's when my world really turned upside down, and kind of, it changed how I thought, it changed my body, it changed my skin texture. My chest was sore, I was growing literally breasts, I was curving out like body shape, my thighs were bigger, my hair was growing crazy. Like, hormones literally are the whole essence of who you are and what you are, and it changes your brain and how you look and literally your being. So it was a rough ride while I was on them, and ultimately I just became so uncomfortable with my body. So it was about five months of being on the hormones that I decided this isn't quite right for me.
Then what happens? Do you have to take hormones to reverse that process, or do you just stop and things would go back to being like a male type body?
So basically, the hormones are just estrogen, which is obviously the female hormone, and estrogen's like responsible for the soft skin, the breast growth, and all that. And men and women both have estrogen and testosterone, but men have more testosterone and women have more estrogen. So it's all about balancing them out. And obviously, had a lot more estrogen in my body at the time, so I'm not totally sure how you're supposed to do it. So nobody out there quote me because I'm not a professional, clearly. But you you basically, I think you wean off them. I believe that's how you do it. But I was on patches and I just kind of ripped my patch off, and I was that confused. I remember once, like it was probably once every other day, I would take the patch off, then leave it off for a couple of days, then put it back on and off and on. So it was really messing me up because I was so confused. And it was almost like in the week I was hating the gender that I was. So I'd take my patch off and I'd want to go back to a boy. But then my friends would say, "Oh, let's go out at the weekend clubbing." And I'd be like, "Oh God, I'm at this in between stage. I need to just carry on and be the female at the weekend." So I'd put the patch back on. And that's how my brain was kind of working with it. Um, so as I came off them totally, my testosterone naturally came back up, and my estrogen would go back down to a, a, a normal level for a natal male, I suppose.
I think you're the same age as me, so mid-20s. See, when you think back to when you were going through the height of your struggles when you were in your mid-teens and your late teens, see if you were that age now, do you think society in the present day is far more understanding of these struggles than it was when we were in our mid to late teens?
Oh my gosh, 100%. I always say to my friends, like if I was about 16 right now, I don't think I would have been so confused and self-loathing and go and wanted to go down the gender transition path, because we've got, all over social media, we've got the James Charleses, we've got the Jeffree Stars, we've
Yeah.
got all these like people that identify as male, wearing makeup and being feminine and having nails and just being who they are. And when I think back when I was that age, that's exactly all I wanted to do. But I just felt so scared and so unable to do that because of the society around me. So I think if I was that age now, I would have loved myself a lot more, a lot earlier in life. And I probably wouldn't have, I probably would have still gone on to identify as somewhat non-binary and still be how I am now. But I think the medical part of my transition, so the hormones, I don't think I would have felt the need to take those. And I keep wanting to reiterate that I never want to come across like I'm sounding like this is what all trans people should do and just, live how they were born, because that's not the reality. And, trans people that need to take hormones are very real and very valid. So I just want to make that clear. But for me, um, yeah, I don't think I would have personally hated myself so much or needed to change my body and my whole world really if I was growing up in this modern day now.
Do you also think the medical side of it has come on a lot in those 10 years, that it is now safer and just a better process for someone who wants to transition than it was when you were 16?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I would like to think that, there is a lot more therapy out there, and there's courses of therapy that you have to go through and, figure out if what you're feeling is 1000% what you want. I know a lot of like thousands of people do feel that way, and it's what they need. And even so, I still think that you should not be stopped from having hormones ever, but I think just really talk about it and have therapy and get it off your chest, how you're feeling, just so that you don't feel like I felt, where I was internal all the time and didn't know what I felt. But I mean, I know that the gender waiting lists for the gender clinics are so long. Um, I think like even when I signed up to a proper one, which I didn't end up going to, I think my wait was about 2 or 3 years. And that's for a trans person that really needs these hormones, that can be fatal for them. Like, they could do the worst things to themselves in that time, or even like I did, get them off the internet somewhere worse than I got them. And, you know, HRT isn't something to play with, really. It needs to be under a supervision of a doctor at all times. But I know the waiting lists are absolutely long, so there's still improvements that need to be made. And I'd like to think there's private gender therapists out there that would do just as good a job as like an NHS one. Obviously, not everybody can afford that, but I think there needs to be more gender therapists, to be honest.
Present day, Richies, we are now in 2022. Are you as happy in your own skin and body as you ever have been?
100%. I'm literally the most happy that I've ever been. Obviously, I still have like hang-ups on appearance, like everybody does. You see things in the mirror that you think, oh, I could do with, losing my love handles or whatever. I like Dominoes though too much for that. But yeah, no, in terms of like, my gender and who I am and how I present and what I think about what people think of me, I'm just so much happier now, and I just don't care as much. I almost think I've been through too much to let ignorant people that I actually feel sorry for make me feel like crap and make me hate myself again. I'm never gonna let that happen again. I've gone through too much to do that.
The last thing I wanted to ask about that before we move on to the cabins is the pronouns. Now, you're
Yeah.
he, they. Can you talk me through, for anyone that doesn't know, why are you, why did you choose to, why do you, sorry, choose to use he and they as your pronouns?
Yeah, I mean, he is my sort of preferred one.
Yeah.
Um, it's never she anymore. I came to that conclusion after my transition because that just doesn't fit me. And then they, I just kind of say that people can call me that if, they look at me and are not sure what to call. I feel like they, if you're not sure on the gender that somebody is presenting as, I feel like they is always a safe option. I know some
That's a
people
good point,
say,
actually. That's a good point.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I feel like people say that they is actually grammatically and like incorrect because it's sort of plural, which I kind of get. But I think we're not talking so much about grammar here. It's more just being respectful to how someone doesn't want to be labeled. Um, so yeah, he for me, is the whole boy thing, even though I don't subscribe to that. But to be honest, he is what I've always been called by everybody. My mum, my dad, like literally everybody in my life. So it's almost like a bit of a name. Like it's like being called Richie. Like you're just used to it. Um, and they for me is just very neutral, which anything in terms of gender which is neutral, I'm quite comfortable with. So I think they's just there for people that are scared of labels like I am. And I think it's, there's no harm in respecting what somebody wants to be called, even if it does sound a bit different to what you'd normally call somebody.
100%. Move on now to the cabins. Did you
Yeah.
apply after watching season one?
Do you know what? I never watched season one.
Ah, okay,
And I
right,
was a bit
interesting.
like, yeah, I was a bit wary of like telling the producers that because I thought they would like take offense. But no, I didn't watch it. I don't watch a lot of telly, to be honest. I'm either at the gym or going out for food or scrolling through my phone. So I never really, or watch Netflix really. So I don't really watch normal telly. But my friend had actually applied and she said, and they always used to talk about it in the group chat together. And they used to say, "Oh, have you watched The Cabins?" And I'm like, "No, what is this show?" Anyway, I didn't think anything of it. And then when season 2 application came out, she said, "Oh, I've just applied for that show that we always go on about." I was like, "What show?" And she's like, "The Cabins." And I was like, "Oh yeah, that one that you won't shut up about." And she was like, "Please apply. Like, I think you'd be amazing on it. Like, that they've only had like a couple of gay couples on it before, so you should go for it." And I was like, "Yeah, but what if I get on and you don't?" Or vice versa, like that might be awkward. And she was like, "Oh, I'm not bothered, just apply." So I applied. It was actually a day off I had for work, and I was just like on my bed, and I was actually bored, and I just thought, "Oh, let me do this." When you're scrolling through Instagram and you're getting bored and you think, right, which other app can I open now? So I went to Safari and I applied with the form, and then later that day I got a phone call about 2 hours ago straight away, and I thought, oh God, here we go.
When was that? So this has just been airing on the TV just now. When did you apply?
Yeah, I applied probably June
Right.
2021.
And then when did you first? Was it all done through Zoom, the meetings and stuff, or did you go and see them in person to do interviews and stuff?
Yeah, it was very COVID-esque, so it was Zoom meetings the whole way. Yeah.
And when did you actually get to go and visit or go to the set, so to speak, or go to the cabin? I don't even know how would I frame that as the set as such.
Yeah, yeah, I suppose it's a set, but they are actually real cabins. I don't know if you can actually rent them out. It's in I don't know if I'm allowed to give the location actually. I was about to say where it is then, but they're in Wales.
Right.
But I don't know if I'm allowed to say exactly
No,
where,
you
but I
don't
think you
have to.
can
Just
rent it.
just in
Yeah,
Wales. That's fine.
yeah, I think you can rent them out. But so I had all the meetings. It was weeks and weeks of phone calls. It was a massive, lengthy process, to be honest. Like, I was on the ward at work because I'm a healthcare assistant, so I work in a hospital. And like my phone would be buzzing. I'd be like in the middle of making Doris a cup of tea, and I'd have to run off to the cupboard and like answer my phone. So it was quite lengthy, the phone calls. And then after all that, I went to the location. It was probably about a 50-minute drive outside of the actual cabins, and I isolated in a hotel for 2 nights just to kind of keep away from COVID. And that was probably, I feel like it was around October the 12th. And in that time, I basically couldn't leave my room. I couldn't go out. I had to be chaperoned if I was going to go anywhere because other cast members were staying in the hotel. So even though they said to us that we're not keeping your dates in the same hotel, they didn't want us to see other cast members, just in case we ended up mixing whilst in the cabin. They wanted it to be authentic. So yeah, it was about October the 12th that I actually went to the hotel, got my little meals delivered to my door like a souvenir every day. And then in that time, I filmed the entrance interview and the slow motion, like walking through the forest kind of shots one day. And then when I went into the cabin, we had to obviously wear exactly the same outfit that we'd done to film the interview so that it looked like we were
So that like continuity, yeah,
continuity. Yeah, so it's
yeah.
quite good. I like that side of television, like the things that you don't see. I find it quite interesting, like media and stuff.
It is
Um,
interesting. It is. I like it too.
yeah, it's great, like behind the scenes and stuff. So yeah, it was October the 15th. I actually ended up going in the cabin.
What was it like in the cabin? So did you? How much? So how much time did you spend in there? I think did they frame it as 24 hours on the TV? But
Yeah.
what was it for you?
So we arrived I was the first one in. I
Hmm.
think I said it looked like I felt like I was in IKEA when I arrived. It was so
Yeah,
like
flat
everything
pack.
smelled like, yeah,
Yeah.
everything smelled like wood. Like it was so clean. It looked like it had all been set up, which it obviously had. So I was like, oh my God, I feel like I'm in IKEA because I genuinely did. So I arrived at about 2 p.m. in the afternoon, and then George came in at about 2:30. They made me kind of walk around and have a look round for filming and stuff first before George arrived. And then we basically left at about 1 o'clock. So it probably was about 24 hours.
And how did you get on with George? What were your first impressions? Like the first time he walks in, what were you thinking?
First impressions, I was like, oh my God, not my type whatsoever. I love I
Right.
love him to bits because we're really good friends now. But at first I was like, oh God, like I'm just gonna have to make this like just a fun little holiday experience now, I think, because I don't really think the physical attractions there. Obviously, I know it can grow over time, but I really just he was like another version of me. Like he was a hairdresser. Like being with a hairdresser is my worst nightmare.
Were you told the cameras would be rolling the full time, the entire 24 hours you would be being watched?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they said it would be rolled for 24 hours, and I was like, oh my God, what about when I want to go to the toilet or have a shower?
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, we've got no interest in filming you have a poo, but
Yeah.
they said we have to keep them rolling just for safety reasons, like if you slip in the shower or fall down the toilet or whatever.
When you were leaving, had you had the conversation with George that you would remain friends after?
We'd not we'd had like a little bit of a conversation after, which they
Yeah.
didn't show, and the whole time it was good vibes with me and George anyway, because we're both kind of people that try and avoid confrontation or negativity at all costs anyway. Um, but when we left the cabin and walked down to the producers, we both got like a bit of a debriefing, took our microphones off and then we had a good chat on like the golf cart buggy that took us back to where our taxis were parked. So we just kind of breathed a sigh of relief and was like, oh my God, like that
It's over. That's it
match was,
done. Mhm.
yeah, we were like, that match was a disaster, but well, let's stay friends. And we literally text every single day. We've like met up for lunch a few times. I'm actually going out. A load of us from the cabins are going out in London, like pretty much the whole cast, on the 29th, Saturday the 29th. So we're going to go out near in Holborn, I think. So I'll see him then as well.
When did you get to meet the other cast members? How long after you completed filming?
Well, I've actually never met the other cast members.
Ah, right. So that's just
Um,
all through having engaged with each other online that you've
yeah,
met.
yeah,
Yeah,
because obviously it's funny because each episode that's on with a new couple, we like all follow each other, like follow that person on Instagram, message them like, "Good luck, how you feeling?" Like, we've all been quite supportive of each other, really. So it's been quite nice. But yeah, I've never met them because me and George were the first ones in, and we were the first ones to film. And we saw that there was paths leading to the other cabins, but we didn't know that we were allowed to go in the other cabins and mix because of COVID and stuff. So we were just like, they didn't show it, but me and George were like, "Oh my God, like there's a path. Should we go?" And we were like, "No, we'll get told off." And I bet the producers were like behind the scenes, like, "No, go, go." But no, we didn't end up. I regret that. I wish we did.
so what's next for you?
What's next for me? Well, I have just signed to Buzz Talent Management.
Wow,
So
good, good.
they, yeah, so I'll see what kind of opportunities that brings. I'm moving to Manchester in April because I've got the next step of my healthcare career. So I've got a nursing associate degree to do, which is like a part-time work, part-time degree. So you get paid for your degree. And then that will bridge me to being a registered nurse one day. So it's all go in April. So I guess I'm just going to focus on that. Definitely try and get into show business a little bit more, whether that be modeling or reality TV. I might apply for Love Island. We'll see what happens with that. But yeah, just kind of take each day as it comes and take every opportunity that I can get, really. I'm not going to let any opportunities pass me by. Life's too short.
Good man. And were you working all through the pandemic then? Were you doing the nursing stuff at that time too?
Yeah, I was. I quit I was a hairdresser for 8 years and I quit that in March 2020, which was just, I was going to quit then anyway, but then the pandemic hit that month. Um, and in the meantime, I was waiting to start my new job at the hospital because I had like a total career switch. So from March till July 2020, I was just locked down, no job, nothing. Um, so that was awful. But then I started in the July and then worked through the second wave. So I didn't work the first one, but the second wave and third, fourth, fifth, whichever one we're on now.
Where would you like to be in 5 years' time?
5 years' time, so I'll be 31. I would like to be, first and foremost, content and happy. Maybe in a relationship. Financially comfortable. I would have liked to have done more TV, and I would like to be well on my way to becoming a registered nurse.
And just as a last question, what advice do you have for anyone who is currently struggling with their gender identity, particularly, say, the younger folk, that they're still discovering themselves as people anyway, and then to throw that into the mix? What would you say to them that now that you're out the other end, so to speak?
Yeah, my advice would be, as easy as it is for me to say, try and love yourself as much as you can. You know, list the things that you love about yourself, write them down, and then you'll realize that you're not such a bad person after all. Stay away from social media. Instagram can literally brainwash you into believing that somebody else's life is better than yours, and that adds to the struggle that you're going through. Definitely seek therapy. Find out, about any help that you can go and get, like any organisations. Talk to your friends. Open up to your family, because a problem shared is definitely a problem halved, if not quartered. So yeah, just try and love yourself. Seek therapy. Don't rule anything out, but just take each day as it comes, and remember, it's not a race, and there's no rush in this. You've got your whole life to discover who you are. So take it slow, and you'll get there in the end.
And that's a wrap. A massive thank you to this week's guest for coming on to the show. I hope you all enjoyed listening as much as I enjoyed chatting. All of the relevant social media accounts can be found in the show notes. The usual bits and pieces from me to see you out. The best way to keep up to date with the latest goings on relating to Lost for Words is to follow using the handle @LostForWordsPod on both Twitter and Instagram. Send a message on either Twitter or Instagram if you have anything you'd like to ask a guest, or for a guest suggestion, or even just to leave any feedback. The best way to support the show is to hit the subscribe button wherever you get your podcasts, and if you use an Apple device, a 5-star review in the podcast app would be amazing. If you like what you hear, tell someone. Word of mouth also helps us to grow. Finally, to round off, all of your support and continued listening is genuinely appreciated. It means a lot to me to have you on this journey too. I am your host Jason, and I hope to have you back next week for another episode of the Lost for Words podcast.